Good evening, everyone. Today I will be doing a presentation on a research project, which is entitled The Impact of Public Discipline Economic Growth and Fairness." So the statement between 2020 and 2024, Guyana experienced significant shift in its economic structure, transitioning from a high debt, low growth economy to one that's fueled by substantial oil revenue. Despite improved Despite improved debt indicators, questions remain about how public debt has influenced economic growth across this period. This study is aimed to examine whether the changes in the level and composition of public debt has supported or hindered Guyana's economic growth, and to identify the risks and opportunity associated in with its evolving landscape. The objections of the study: to explore how Guyana's public debt, as a measure of the debt to GDP ratio, has influenced economic growth over the past decade. To investigate whether the country's debt level has crossed any critical debt threshold that may hinder long-term economic growth according to established theories and benchmarks. To assess the role of oil revenue in shaping fiscal policies and its effect on public sustainability, debt sustainability, and economic sustainability. To evaluate the implication of public debt management practices on future growth prospects, considering both domestic factors and global economic trends. To provide policy recommendation for managing public debt within sustainable thresholds that encourage investment, job creation, and long-term development in Guyana. The scope of the scope of the study, well, this study will focus on the relationship between public debt and economic growth in Guyana, specifically analyzing the debt to GDP ratio as a central indicator. The research will cover the period between 2020 to 2024, enabling an in-depth look at how Guyana's public debt level has evolved in the context of changing economic conditions, including the recent oil boom. So the theoretical framework that is used, so this study is grounded in multiple economic theories to offer different perspective on the relationship between public debt and economic growth. The theory helped to explain how debt accumulation may influence economic performance, both positively and negatively, in the context of Guyana's evolving landscape. So the theories will be used to examine the the course of action that is taken by Guyana as relates to the debt to GDP ratio. Because as we know that debt can be used as an instrument to influence economic growth within a particular country, like for example, expansionary fiscal policy. This is where the government would increase their demand or increase spending, I should say. And in turn of that, they would create jobs, among other things. So they would influence the economic condition of the economy by using their spending. One way that they could finance, and what I have realized with Guyana's instance is that as of 2019, the government had increased the amount of spending that they have, and it has been financed. Their budget has been financed more or less by their public debt, because as what I noticed is that as the budget increase over year, the public debt, especially the domestic debt of Guyana, has been increasing significantly. So they are using the debt to finance their projects that they're doing. So if we read so they're using debt in order to finance the projects that they're doing. So we have several theories that can be used: the debt overhaul theory, the Keynesian theory, neoclassical growth theory. These are all theories that can be used as a framework to explain what is going on in Guyana. Even the Richardson theory that we have here. In the data analysis, we can see the periods between 2000 to 2024, where in the early 2000s, the debt to GDP ratio was very high. According to the data that we received, it was 204%, but it reduced over time because of government policies. And in 2015 is where Guyana had made the agreement with Exxon concerning the exploration of oil. In 2019 is when they first started pumping, pumping oil. And as you can see that there was a change in the dynamics of the public debt, meaning that they were stretching, leaning towards domestic debt more than external debt. This would be beneficial to the country because they don't have to be faced with high interest rates, and also the fluctuation of exchange rates wouldn't be affected because majority of their debt is actually domestic debt compared with previous years. The major finding of this report is that Guyana's current economic growth is driven significantly by the oil that they have received. So because of the National Resource Fund that they have established, they're using the oil resources to fund construction and welfare projects within the country. But they must avoid depending too much on the oil resources, and also try to diversify their investments. Secondly, we notice that they have decreased their dependency on external debt and focusing it more on the revenues that they're receiving, also domestic debt. So the conclusion. In conclusion, Guyana's economic trajectory has been given significant impact by its public debt level and the discovery of oil. The reduction in the debt to GDP ratio from over the period of 2000 to 2024 from 2000% to below 30 by 2024 highlights a remarkable improvement in physical health. However, while oil revenues have played a pivotal role in the reduction of debt, it's essential that Guyana adopts some strong fiscal policies, investment in diversifying their sectors, and strengthening public debt management to ensure that the country continues on a sustainable growth path. The recommendations of the finding is basically to strengthen their debt management system, the strategic use of the oil resources, focus on fiscal resilience, and invest in human capital. These are some of the recommendations of the project. And that, thank you, and that is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.